Henry's taken a new turn. Henry is done with Conor McGregor. He's done with Volkanovski. He's pointing his cannons fully at Aljo. Did this on social media. Henry had a meeting with the UFC on Friday. After the meeting, everything's pointed towards Aljo. Now, I have to tell you, that doesn't mean that's the direction, and I don't want to give you the impression that that's the direction that the organization is going. It's where Henry is going. Aljo's in. Aljo responded as a bunch of LOL emojis. He didn't blink a bit. Now, that's very wise by Aljo for a couple of reasons. If Henry comes back and you're Aljo, you're the champion, you're going to have to fight Henry. Does that mean right away, or maybe you make Henry do one thing in between? I don't know. Well, I don't know. That's between Henry and the organization and however well that meeting went. I just hear from you from the champ's perspective, and I'm talking about Aljo. If you got to face Henry at some point, don't let him knock that dust off, right? This was just tested a week ago. Ali Abdelaziz came out speaking about his client, Kamaru Usman, and said, let's get this Chimaev thing done right now. Let's not let this young Chimaev, who's 27, let's not let him get better and get more experience. Let's get in there with him as quickly as we can. Okay. Most guys go the other way and they try to hide, but this was Ali's perspective, and I bring that to you because Aljo could invoke that same strategy. If you know you're going to have to deal with this problem anyway, let's deal with it in the best circumstances. Nobody looks great in their return fight. And there's real interesting math. Like, there is a tipping point. Age does matter. Henry's 35. He's not a spring chicken anymore. At one point, he was the youngest Olympic champion in U.S. history. And now he's mid-30s. Taking a couple of years off is very meaningful at this point. Henry has been very active within the sport. He's gone on and built he's got like 3 world champions. It's something crazy. Not to mention he's going to be with Jon Jones, not to mention Prohaska. It's only 6 weeks away against Glover Teixeira. I mean, Henry is wildly decorated, but it does beg the question. Okay, great. Henry's in guys' corners. Henry's studying the sport. Henry's in the gym. Is he holding mitts and invoking strategy? Or is he working out? I don't have the answer to that. But it does matter. It matters a lot. And I have a couple of clues. The mere fact that Henry tried to come back at 145, the mere fact that Henry talked about Conor, which was going to be at 155, means that Henry thought he was big enough. Well, if he is big enough and he gained weight, how did he do it if he's training right? It's a fair question by me, right? I have very limited information. I'm asking the question. So Henry's going to go get himself in shape. He's going to come back. He's going to go 135 pounds. He's hoping to do it against Sterling. These are the clues that we have. I'm just asking you, how do you think Henry will do? And another piece when you're doing your wild and loose detective work is to look at the prior opponents, in this case that Henry had. Where are they today and how are they doing? Like, I will tell you, Jon Jones has had 4 hard fights in his entire life. Hard. 4 guys that could go with him, that could compete, that could make the distance, that could win rounds, some of which even gained favor with the judges and or with the fans. 4 guys. Of those 4 guys, they're all done. And whether that's done with contention, done with the weight class, or done with the sport, they're all done. So if Jon was to step aside and not do it, and we know as human beings we don't get it better at something by not doing it, and the group that he was tested against stayed busy, stayed active, stayed hungry, stayed getting better, and time passed them by, you could come to a reasonable assumption. And nothing more than that. Nothing factual. And I only bring the Jon Jones example in because that one's about to get tested. It looks like Henry is going to be facing that same question. Where's Demetrius and how is Demetrius doing since fighting Henry? Where is Dillashaw and how is Dillashaw doing since fighting Henry? Where is Dominic Cruz and how is Dominic Cruz doing since fighting Henry? That's the question you got to ask. I'm not answering that. That's what you will have to ask yourself and then try to do an assessment of where Henry could be, having not been busy, having not gone through the training camps, having not gone through the grind, having not gone through the scale. Scale's a very relevant one. You get a guy that's looking at 155 and he finds out he's got to do 2 weight classes down. You look at a guy that wanted to go to 145, but he finds out he's got to go a weight class down. It changes the discipline. It changes the work required. It changes the lifestyle. I will remind you, when Henry left the sport, just to remind you, there was a gap. Henry had room to make mistakes. Henry had room to show a lack of discipline and or motivation and still be the champion. There was space. Henry's last 2 fights, just off the top of my head, were both stoppages, and Henry had not lost a single moment. But there's another side to the coin where Henry had a real back and forth battle with Marlon. Extremely hard and competitive fight. Marlon went on a losing streak to the point that he is retired from the sport. So how does that factor in? We have 2 guys that did the same thing and once did it fairly equally. One guy stayed busy, stayed disciplined, did everything right, and it still wasn't enough versus a guy that didn't do anything at all. What happens there? I don't know. I don't have this answer, but I do think that Sterling is correct in going out and going after that. And not just going after it, right now. I don't have an opponent. I'm looking for one. You used to be the champion. Come on, let's do it. Now, I think it's the right strategy. Now, whatever happens is between those boys, I think we would really enjoy that fight. I do think it's appropriate. A lot of people don't think Henry should be able to take time off, come in and go for a championship fight. I do. But I was also a defender of Dillashaw. If Dillashaw was going to come walk right into a championship fight. Turned out he had to fight Sandhagen and then was going to go into a championship fight, got himself hurt. But we've seen these things happen before. I do think with the gap that Henry had, not to mention double champion, not to mention Olympic champion, I get it. I didn't have a problem with it. I like to see an active guy too. I like to see somebody that's traveling the roads and staying busy and doing everything right. I like to see them get the opportunity. You've got to weigh and measure those against each other. And it's not always the same answer for every single guy, but I do think it's appropriate for Henry that he not have to do anything else, that he walk right into a title fight. I also will submit for you, and this is a guess. I talk to Henry all the time, but I'm not sharing inside information with you. I don't know this. I don't think you're going to get Henry back if it's anything less than a title fight. I really felt as though when we got the announcement put out by the organization itself that Henry Cejudo is back, when he re-entered the pool and he had this meeting, he's got a contract signed, I really thought that that was the same thing, synonymous with saying Henry Cejudo has a title fight. We just didn't know at that time, 2 weeks ago, what weight class. Now it appears that we do. It appears that Henry's taken everything off the board, all the ideas, he's fully locked in. It looks like it's Sterling. Sterling doesn't look like he has any problem with it. What do you guys think?